Hi everyone, welcome to Behavior Bubble. My name is Brittany and today we'll be reading What Were You Thinking? This is written by Bryan Smith and illustrated by Lisa M. Griffin. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Braden and I'm in the 3rd grade. Just so you know, I'm probably the funniest kid in my school. Seriously, I have made some kids cry and almost wet their pants because they were laughing so hard. I'm hilarious. Let's turn the page. Anyway, this year, school started the same way it does every year. The teacher explains the rules, we practice the rules, and then we practice them some more. Don't teachers realize 3rd graders know how to follow the rules? Well, on Friday, I realized why. We practice the rules. I wonder what happened. My teacher began class by saying, "Good morning, boys and girls. Today, we are going to..." That's when it just happened. I shouted out, "Talk about how awesome I am!" The class giggled. My teacher, Mrs. Vickerman, said, "Whoa, Braden, we have rules to follow in class. Is interrupting me when I'm talking to the class following the rules?" "No, I guess it isn't being respectful," I answered. Right. Remember, the first day of school, we talked about what those rules look like in class. And we said one way to show respect is to raise your hand if you have something to say and calmly wait for the teacher to call on you. That is one way we control our impulses. Control our what? I'm sorry, Mrs. Vickerman. That sounds like grown-up talk. Mrs. Vickerman smiled and said, "They are big words, but what they mean is that sometimes our bodies are telling us to do things and we have to decide whether or not to do them." Let's see this page. Later on, Mrs. Vickerman pulled me aside. She asked, "When you shouted out saying we were going to talk about how awesome you are, what were you thinking?" "Well, I thought it would be really funny." "Right, but did that make the situation better or worse?" I sat there for a second, then sighed and said, "Worse." Mrs. Vickerman explained there are times to be funny and times to be serious at school. She asked me, "When is it a good time to be funny at school?" "I don't know. Maybe lunch, recess, and free time." Right. Mrs. Vickerman gave me a card with 4 easy steps to follow before saying or doing something. Here's the 4 steps in our class. Number 1, stop what you are doing. Number 2, think about what you are going to say or do. Number 3, decide if it will make the situation better or worse. And number 4, choose the behavior that makes the situation better. This didn't seem too hard. I told Mrs. Vickerman I was sorry and I would think before doing things from now on. I wonder how well that works out. Later that day in PE, we were playing a new dodgeball game. The only rules were you could not hit kids in the face and you could not go on the other team's side. My team was ahead and things were going great. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Amanda sneak over to our side and hit one of our players with a ball. Like a cheetah, I sprinted over to Amanda and I threw a ball right at her face. Uh-oh, I think that's breaking the rules. Oh no. Just as the ball was about to hit her, Coach called out, "Braden, get over here right now." I saw Amanda on the floor crying and knew this was not going to end well. Then I heard the same words again. "What were you thinking?" I explained how I was mad Amanda cheated, and that's why I hit her with the ball. Coach did not look happy and told me I needed to control my impulses. Coach asked if hitting Amanda with the ball made the situation better or worse. "Worse," I whispered. He pulled out the tips card from Mrs. Vickerman and asked if I followed any of the steps. I realized I didn't even follow step number 1. Stop what you are doing. Rule number 1, stop what you're doing. That day when I got home, my parents already knew about what happened at school. Mom and Dad said we would be practicing controlling our impulses at home, and they had a copy of the card Mrs. Vickerman gave me. Oh, great, I sighed. With all that happened at school, I was surprised to see Mom was making cupcakes for me. Yum. As they were cooling off on the counter, I went in like a hungry bear. I ate 12 cupcakes, and then I had a huge tummy ache. Mom came in looking shocked and asked, "What in the world happened to your brother's birthday cupcakes for his class?" They weren't his cupcakes. Uh-oh, maybe those weren't for me. Braden, you know you were supposed to ask permission. And with everything that happened at school today, what were you thinking? I was thinking about how good they would taste. Did eating those cupcakes make the situation better or worse? Well, they did taste good, I mumbled. I'm sure they did, but overall, did that make the situation for you, your brother, and me better or worse? Worse, I said as I lowered my head. We went over the card Mrs. Vickerman had given me again. On top of that, I had to help Mom make more cupcakes instead of playing my favorite video game. Not a fun night. Why were those 4 steps so hard to follow? A few days later at school, it finally clicked. I was being my usual hilarious self with my friends at lunch. We were having a great time. Then I felt something mushy and wet smack me in the head. A kid from another class threw some Jell-O at me, and his whole table was laughing. I immediately thought, he just messed with the wrong person. Time to teach him a lesson. Uh-oh, I don't have a good feeling about this. Let's see what happens next. I grabbed some of my mashed potatoes and got ready to throw a mashed potato fastball at his head. I reached my arm way back to get full speed. As my arm was about to go forward, I stopped. I got this weird picture in my head of that card. I asked myself, is this going to make the situation better or worse? That's step number 3. I knew the answer, and though it was hard, I decided to just raise my hand over my head to get the teacher's attention. That's step number 4. Mrs. Vickerman came over, and I explained what happened. She went and talked to the other boy, and he had to go to the principal's office to finish his lunch. Whoa, was I just able to control my impulse? This made me feel good about myself. Later in class, Mrs. Vickerman pulled me aside. She said, "I noticed you had mashed potatoes in your hands when you raised your hand today at lunch. Something tells me you weren't planning to eat those." I smiled and said, "Yeah, I was going to hit that boy in the head with them, but decided it would be better to talk to you about it since it's one of the rules at the cafeteria." She laughed and said, "So what were you thinking?" Stay out of trouble. I was thinking, I am sick of getting in trouble, and for once, I wanted to make the right choice. That's great! And your good choice did make the situation better this time. You even followed all 4 steps. Yup, I said. Maybe I was becoming an impulse expert. That night when I got home, my parents asked my brother and me to pick up our toys, and he just left his remote control car, the one he never lets me play with, right in the middle of the floor. Uh-oh. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought for just a second, this might be a good time to take my brother's remote control car and hide it in my closet. But then again, would an impulse expert do that? I knew what the right thing to do was, So I walked into my brother's room and gave him his remote control car. My brother said, "Thanks a lot, booger brain." At first I got mad, and then I just laughed. I may be becoming an expert in controlling my impulses, but I'll never be able to control my brother. Wow. So, that was the book. What were you thinking? And let's remember, it was written by Bryan Smith, and it was illustrated by Lisa M. Griffin. Thanks for joining me for Story. I hope that you enjoyed it. Bye, everybody.